back, ladies and gentlemen, to another Big Gold Belt movie review. Today, we are bringing you the latest in the juggernaut horror movie franchise, Final Destination, and this one is Final Destination Bloodlines. Here's a quick synopsis. Plagued by a violent recurring nightmare, a college student heads home to track down the one person who might be able to break the cycle of death and save her family from the grisly demise that inevitably awaits them all. This is directed by Zach Leibowitz and Adam Stein. It stars Caitlin Santa-Juan, Richard Harmon, Owen Patrick Jerner, and Tony Todd. Now, Bloodlines is very interesting here because for the Final Destination franchise, which has not been out since 2011, so this is the first film in 14 years in this franchise. And Bloodlines takes a direction that no other film in this franchise did, and that is actually building a storyline here. So what you're introduced immediately off the break from it is we get the typical Final Destination beginning with the premonition that sets up the remainder of the film. But here the premonition helps set up a storyline that goes generations and generations and generations deep, and that's what separates this film from every Final Destination film done before it, is that this one feels like it was actual time spent on developing a story that will keep you as interested as the grisly deaths that happen in it. Because again, that's kind of the main reason you're here for a Final Destination film. So when we're introduced to this nightmarish dream of everything that happens, and we get Caitlin as she returns home and having to talk to her family about this dream, and then we realize the reality of the dream, and then we get the setup of everything that happens with the dream. Now, some of the stuff you're going to see coming a mile away. It's a white woman and it's a little black boy that tends to be the key focus of this dream, and there's only one black person in Final Destination films, so you can kind of put two and two together. There is not even a leap or stretch of your imagination humanly possible who that little boy is at the beginning of the film. But then you have to go through the remainder of the film to find out exactly what happened. How is it that this young girl is dreaming of something that happened 60 years ago? And then the ramifications of that dream. That's when you get to the very interesting elements of the Final Destination franchise. As we've always focused on, when death wants you, it's going to come, it's going to get you, but then there's also been rules on how to possibly delay death. I think it was in part 2 we established that if you create a new life, it can help extend the time of you and the old life and everyone else involved. In another part, I want to say it's part 4, it was brought up that if you die somehow, actually, and part 2 it was brought up, that if you die somehow and are brought back to life, death immediately skips you because technically you died. Like, these are the makeshift rules of the Final Destination franchise. And with Bloodlines here, we get that amped up to a different level, along with the kills amped up to a different level. Granted, it's not a lot of them. They're just done in such a creative way that it matches with the actual storyline. So it's just not deaths just to have them. All of that makes this film thoroughly enjoyable, along with the directors here, Zach and Adam, who literally had to audition to direct this film. But here we get two people who are very passionate, not only just about the kills in it, but making you care as much for the storyline as you do for the deaths in a Final Destination film. And I think that is the trick of a lot of these films, is making you overtly care about them. Now, while Final Destination is a huge horror franchise, we also always have to remember this was kind of the C tier of the franchises at the time this came out. There was already Scream on the market. It was always I Know What You Did Last Summer. Those were the two big ones. And then you got the Final Destination films, and it had a niche audience that it fed over and over and over again. But through diminishing returns and then through diminishing plots and setups. I mean, most people don't remember a Final Destination film they enjoyed. You remember moments from the film. And with Bloodlines, this feels like the first one that you're actually going to remember the storyline and the setup of why this film takes place. It's such a grand setup, And it's such a huge scope for a Final Destination horror film to have that it's going to keep you intrigued throughout, just to watch everything and to see how this stuff moves. And in a way, it kind of makes you wish you can see even more, because it's the way the branch all sets up in this film. It kind of answers questions in the other films, and you kind of wanted to go back a little bit to help flesh out those other films by this film. This film is Bloodlines is a palate cleanser for the series. And when you get these older horror movie franchises and then you bring them back and you bring it up to a newer audience to enjoy, at times you need one of the films to be a palate cleanser where you can kind of not necessarily erase all the past films, but help clean up some of the flaws in the last 5 or 6 or 10 films in some cases, and have it straighten it up just enough where it can keep an audience intrigued, not just in a film they're seeing, but possibly go back and then possibly set up other films. Final Destination Bloodline manages to do all of that. You can see how the franchise can move forward. You can even see how prequels can be done based solely off of this plot that moves very well here in this film, along with some solid performances. Again, this is something you don't hear about from Final Destination films. You don't hear about performances normally. You don't really hear about direction normally. You just hear about death scenes. And in this one, the storyline matters more than the deaths. And that's all anyone who ever loved this franchise could hope for, that they would spend as much time of making these very creative deaths as they do with the story. And here they finally do that, and it pulls it off wonderfully. Now, that's not to say that the death scenes in here are not satisfying. These are some of the most satisfying death scenes you're going to get in any Final Destination film. And that alone would be a great reason, again, to go see a film like this. But then you tie that along with the storyline here and with solid direction here, you get a movie that could catch everybody off guard, because a Final Destination film is not supposed to be as good as Final Destination Bloodlines is. And because it's good and because it's entertaining, it kind of has brought back this franchise to life, and kind of leaves the audience wanting more. And I think that is the primary goal of these Final Destination films. So if, again, you're looking for a solid bloody horror film with an amazing storyline, because this storyline is really amazing here, I think you'll thoroughly enjoy it. But Final Destination Bloodlines, brought to you by Warner Brothers, is currently in theaters now. Out of a possible 10, I am going to give Final Destination Bloodlines a 9 out of 10. This is the best horror film of this year. It gives you everything humanly possible you can want here. A solid storyline, amazing death scenes, and it builds the proper amount of tension. Also has that comedic horror element that in the later Final Destination films made them more enjoyable. That element is in this film, and it is executed perfectly. It's weird to say that you can watch a Final Destination films and can't think of a flaw in it. But for Bloodlines, this is the first time I can't think of a flaw in a Final Destination film. Not only that, this is the film that gives you more hope that this franchise can actually come back and produce good movies. It's equivalent to what we got with Scream 6, or what they're currently attempting to do with the next I Know What You Did Last Summer film, where you want to bring back these old horror franchises, but you want to do it in a fresh enough way, but still have a nostalgic taste to it that it can garner the older audience and also bring in a newer audience. And Final Destination Bloodlines manages to do both and do them very well. But check it out. Let us know what you think. This has been another Big Gold Belt movie review. Peace, people.